All right, guys, here we go. We're out here on Kentucky Lake, and I'm going to give you a rundown on what I've seen the last month or so out here on Kentucky Lake. As fish start to transition out offshore, we're going into the last week of the month. Now we're here. It's hard to believe that we're already almost to the 1st of July, but just want to give you a rundown on what I've seen. The lake's in great shape, and I've talked to you a little bit in the past about the tough years that we've seen, but man, this lake is coming back strong, and I'm a little surprised that it come back as quick as it did, but and we're still not there yet. But man, the lake is healthy. There's a lot of shad in the lake. There's a good population of fish, largemouth and smallmouth both. One thing that I've seen is the number of 2 to 2.5 pound class of fish that's back in the lake now, and that's very encouraging. I really think we're in for a treat the next 2 to 3, 4 years looking ahead, and it's exciting to see it, to see the lake take a complete turn and go downhill and be as tough as it was for a few years, to almost no fish offshore to speak of. We didn't have any bait running out there. The number of fish just weren't there due to bad spawns and a lot of things that a lot of variables went into that recipe for disaster, so to speak, the last few years. But man, it is so encouraging to see this lake coming back, and it's coming back fast, and so good to see. A few weeks ago, like I say, we're going into the last week of the month here. The lake flooded, and TVA started ripping current, pulling that down, and it hit is like a perfect storm. It hit about the time the fish started to make that transition out. We're dead summertime now. We're at 85 degree, 88 degree water temperatures. It's hot. We finally got one day of break in the humidity, but it looks like it's coming back. But it's summertime. It's summertime in Kentucky. It's going to be hot. But when those fish started to move out, they got grouped up really good, and I started seeing a lot of bait, started seeing a lot of schools of fish. And the thing about it is, you could go to some of the old places that you historically had found schools of fish in the summertime, and they were there. They may not be the big schools like we used to see, but there were several places that I found this year that had good numbers in it, and some quality too. The quality just wasn't there, and I really believe that the 3 to 4 pound class of fish in here the next few years obviously are going to be big fish, and we'll be back to square one, and things will be, who knows, it may be better than it was. You just never know. But the ingredients, we've got fish back in the lake, we've got bait back in the lake. The gizzard shad are coming up skipping. You'll see them early in the mornings. There's a lot of skipjack in the lake that are up shallow. You guys that like to throw a top water, you could get up on the bank where there's a little pencil minnows that I've talked about the last few years that's running the bank, and there's a lot of skipjack and stuff that's kind of keeping them stirred up, and you can catch some fish around that stuff. But man, just talking about the last month and just being able to see those fish again. If you followed me along the last several years, you know that my thing is offshore fishing. I love to catch fish offshore. I love to catch them every cast on a big crankbait, big swim bait, and we got a little bit of that. Man, it was incredible to see it, the numbers of fish that were out here. And there's a lot of guys that kind of give up on the lake, and I've seen a lot more boats this year, and it's encouraging to see guys wanting to get back into it and start fishing again. And I talked to a good friend of mine not too long ago, and he made the comment. He said the lake is too good to stay down forever, and just to see those fish getting back out there and in numbers, and it's very encouraging. But the encouraging part is just the numbers that we're seeing, the numbers in the schools. You could catch some big ones early on, and it's getting later in the summer, they're starting to bust up a little bit. But one thing to look for when you're out here looking for these fish, when these fish first come out off the spawn, they like to get out there in that super deep water. They'll get out in that 18, 20, 22, even 25 to 28 foot range. And then as the summer progresses, a lot of people think that those fish, they go out deep, but it's actually just the opposite. The hotter it gets, the higher up in the water column those fish are going to get. They're going to get up on top of the flats, and that's why you'll see late summertime, starting about right now to the 1st of July, a lot of those fish will get off of those moving reaction baits like I like to throw, the big swim baits, big crankbaits, things like that, and they'll start getting on a big worm, you know, a big Texas rig worm, Carolina rig, those things. I've got a lot of baits to talk about. There's a lot of things that work on the Tennessee River when they're fishing offshore. I have personally not been up on the bank fishing much. There's a couple things working up top. When you get up shallow, you can throw like a Nichols buzz bait. If you like to throw a buzz bait at top water, like a walking style bait, like a catwalk or something from 6 cents, something like that. The Nichols buzz bait around the water willow grass. There's a lot of bait fish, and if you put in the mornings at the dock, just look around. I mean, fish are getting popped. You can catch some fish up shallow like that on those kind of baits. A swim jig, like a Dirty Jigs bluegill colored swim jig in that water willow grass. You can catch some fish doing that. I personally fish deep. You know, if fish are offshore, that's kind of what I like to do. And you know, I can still catch a few fish on like a Crush 300. This is the 6 cents Smash Fest color right here. I caught some big old smallmouth just this week on this bait right here. You know, this bait here, the crankbait and like a big swim bait, like a 6.0 whale or like the Ignite Frenzy, something like that. Those baits right there, I kind of rotate between those two, you know, to get those big bites. When they're not pulling any water, that bite tends to slow down. Now, what happens is when it gets slick out here, it really gets tough. TVA's not been pulling a lot of water, like 14 to 16,000 a day is nothing. That is not any water to speak of, and those fish will just kind of sit there, and you can see them on your live scope out there, and them suckers will not bite. But occasionally, if you'll just spend some time, anybody that's ever fished with me knows that I may start at the dam and I may go past Ken Lake. I mean, I'll burn some fuel in a day's time. I'm not one of these guys that's gonna go out here, camp on a spot and drag a Carolina rig. I'm not wired that way. That's not what I do. So if you fish with me, you know that I'm gonna bounce around. I'm gonna hit as many places in a day as I can. But I say that to say this, it's time to start slowing down. When they're not pulling any water, it's time to start slowing down. Like the slower style baits, you know, like a Texas rig. This is a Texas rig worm, you know, on a 1/4 ounce head, drop shot. I catch a lot of fish on a drop shot. This is the 6 cents Glitch. This is the Morning Dawn. Plum Dawn's another good color. And then, you know, just slowing down. You'll see those fish out there. And here's the thing, don't give up on them on those moving baits. If you like to catch them winding, find you a windy day. If the wind's blowing, take advantage of that wind. You know, it puts enough current in the water that a lot of times you can pull up and catch a few fish. And a lot of times you'll ride over the top of them, you'll see them down there and like, oh man, we're getting ready to wreck them here. And them suckers will not bite. And then you pick up a drop shot or a wacky rig, you know, like a Nico rig or something like that. And that's another bait that I have caught a lot of fish on this time of year is the Bambusa worm or like a mag trick worm, something like that. This one right here, that's the Whiskey Dust Bambusa there, plum fleck, any of those plum colored worms. Put your O-ring right in the middle, put your 1/8 ounce weight, put it on a spinning rod and throw it out there on those tough fish. I promise you, you will get you some bites. Another bait that I throw a lot this time of year to get those fish fired up, and if you followed along my recent reports or any of the videos and stuff that I've been posting, this bait right here, and this spoon's been laying here, I'm probably fixing to burn my hand up. That right there, the 8-inch mag spoon from Nichols, put you the stinger hooks on the top. That bait right there, it'll work you to death, but it will catch the big ones. It'll catch quality, but it'll also catch you some numbers. If you see those fish out there, kind of, you know, they look right, hey, I'm getting ready to catch them here, and they don't want to chase anything, a lot of times you take that bait, you rip it over the top of them, and you'll see them out there. You know if they look right. If you use your live scope like I do, I'm not that guy that gets that live scope out there and I'm gonna throw at one fish, catch him, throw at one fish, catch him, throw at one fish, catch him. I do a little bit of that, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. That's not me. I still fish a little bit old school. I'm learning that live scope and stuff, but one thing I use it for more is not just seeing one single fish and catching it, but what I like to do is use it as a tool. And what I mean by that is, how are the fish reacting to a bait? How are they set up? Are they tight to the bottom? Are they up off the bottom? What baits do I need to throw? And if you use that to your advantage, that's where you're going to excel over, you know, if you're fishing tournaments, let's say over the next guy. Learn those electronics, whether it's Garmin, Lowrance, Humminbird, whatever it is. Learn those electronics, learn how to use them. But another bait that I've caught several on this year, when they're, especially if they're pulling a little bit of water, or if you're out there early in the morning, this is the Davis Scrounger head. This is the it's got the flush, the 6 cents flush on the back of it. This one right here, that's the long bill 3/4 ounce. That's all you need. that bait right there, it wobbles. You know, it's no secret on this Tennessee River. That bait right there, it will get you some bites, no doubt about it. That's pretty much it. I mean, another bait that I will start throwing here before long when these fish start to get up on top of this stuff is just a football jig. This is Dirty Jigs watermelon color. It's got the 6 cents trailer on the back right there. That's another bait. Another bait too that I'll start throwing a lot this time of year, and I'll catch everything on it, is the slice blade bait. You followed along the last couple years, you know I throw that thing a lot. I'll tell you what else it'll catch you some big catfish out here on the Tennessee River. Anybody that throws those blade baits knows that. You can catch whites on it, you catch bass on it, and a lot of times when those fish they'll start getting hammered, and you know that's a bait that you can a lot of times get those fish fired up with too. But that's kind of it on the bait selection. You know, there's a lot of things that's working out here. Try a lot of different things, but one thing, if I could give you any advice at all, what I would recommend doing if you're out here on Kentucky Lake in the summertime, in the month of June, or moving on into July, if the TVA is not pulling any water, you know, a lot of times those fish are going to get pressured. When the fish first come out here, they get a lot of pressure. And I seen that this year, more people fishing this year because word got out that they were fishing off, that the fish were offshore. Those fish are going to get pressured, they're going to move around. They're going to slide up and down these ridges. If you find them on Tuesday at the tip of this island, they might be at the other tip 100 yards away the very next morning. I've seen that. And I mean, that's the thing about using your Lowrance electronics, is get out there, take that side scan and down scan and idle around and look for those places where those fish have shifted. That's what most people do, is they come out here and they go to the same places every day, same places, and they wonder why they're not biting. Those fish are still there, but they've shifted. They're moving around a lot, and you see that a lot. I've seen just this week alone, I pull up to a place, I catch them really good, I find them, catch them really good, and the next morning I don't even see them there. And that's completely normal. It's just that time of year, summertime, fish are moving around out here. They're going to get harder to catch as the summer goes on, as it gets hotter, number one. Number two, fishing pressure. And you know, that's the thing. We've got enough fish in the lake now. Guys are out here fishing for them, and it's just getting better. It seems like actually the bite gets tougher as the summer goes on, and it'll continue to get tougher, but I'm still seeing schools even this late in June, which is very encouraging. So get out there, you can catch some fish shallow, you can catch them out deep. If you're looking for a fishing trip, get on my website, shoot me an email, info@brandonhunterfishing.com. Don't forget to go by our store there at High Tech Outdoors on Highway 68 before you get to Moore's Resort, Moore's Highway there. We've got Garmin, Humminbird, Lowrance. We've got all the marine electronics. All the guys there do a great job keeping us, you know, keeping all of our stuff rigged, and do a great job in the rigging department there. And we've got a great selection of tackle. I keep anything that I've talked about here today, the 6 cents product, nickels, lures, Dirty Jigs. We keep a store full of the right stuff. You know, that's one thing that the last couple years we've tried to do there at that store, is to not, you know, we may not be the biggest, but keep the right stuff. And you guys come by and see us, go see Tony, Matt, all those guys. I'm there usually most Saturdays, some afternoons. I've been pretty busy on the water. So you guys get ready to go fishing, shoot us a message, come by, see us, and we'll see you guys on the water.